In the quiet stretches of America's rural heartland, where horse-drawn buggies still roll along dirt roads and cell towers are few and far between, something extraordinary grows. Giant tomatoes, rich in flavor and sometimes weighing up to 4 pounds, all cultivated without a single drop of synthetic fertilizer or a whisper of modern genetic tampering. These are the tomatoes of the Amish, grown through practices passed down not from textbooks or YouTube tutorials, but from father to son, mother to daughter, hands to soil. While modern agriculture measures success in bushels per acre and gallons of synthetic inputs, the Amish measure it in the richness of their compost, the dark loam that smells like a forest floor, and the sweetness of a tomato still warm from the vine. Their methods, seemingly antiquated in a world rushing toward automation, are rooted in principles far older than tractors and labs. They treat the soil not as lifeless dirt, but as a breathing, evolving community, a living partner in the act of growing. And it's this relationship, patient and intimate, that allows them to produce tomatoes of such staggering size and flavor that they often baffle visiting agricultural scientists. Amish farming is inherently sustainable, not as a trendy label, but as a way of life. It's what you do when your belief system doesn't permit reliance on electricity or gasoline, when your community functions on cooperation and stewardship, and when your ultimate accountability is not to shareholders, but to future generations and to God. Soil fertility is maintained not with bags of urea or ammonium nitrate, but with compost made from manure, food scraps, straw, and leaves, all returned to the earth in a cycle as old as civilization itself. Crop rotation is a sacred rhythm. Tomatoes this year, corn the next, followed by grains or hay, all to let the soil rest and rejuvenate while keeping pests guessing. And it works. Fields managed this way contain up to 30% more organic matter than those farmed conventionally, leading to better water retention, healthier microbial life, and stronger plants that yield those monstrous fruits. The size of these tomatoes is not just for show. In communities with large families and limited income, a single giant tomato can feed many. Sliced into sandwiches, simmered into sauces, or preserved in jars for winter, they are practical marvels. Some Amish families take their finest to roadside stands or farmers' markets, where the sight of a perfectly red softball-sized tomato draws curious onlookers like moths to a lantern. The income from these stands helps sustain their way of life, covering essentials that can't be grown or bartered. But while outsiders gape at the tomatoes, the Amish know the secret lies beneath, the soil built over decades of care and patience. Compost piles are built like alchemical crucibles. Not just anything gets tossed in. Manure must be aged, straw must be balanced with green matter, and the whole heap must be turned and monitored, not with thermometers or sensors, but with senses honed over a lifetime. If it still smells like manure, it's not ready. When it finally breaks down into sweet, earthy humus, it's spread over tomato beds, offering the plants a buffet of nutrients so balanced and gentle that root burn is a foreign concept. Amish farmers also eschew deep tilling, preferring to disturb only the top few inches of soil. This preserves fungal networks and the homes of earthworms, millions of which live in every acre of well-managed Amish farmland. These wriggling workhorses aerate the soil and leave behind castings more nutritious than the dirt they consume. Mulching is another key technique, often done with straw, hay, or even newspaper. It keeps the soil cool, suppresses weeds, and adds organic matter as it breaks down. On the hottest summer days, this mulch can keep the soil 15 to 20 degrees cooler than bare earth, a critical difference for tomatoes, which shut down if their roots overheat. Amish farms often lack electric irrigation systems, so conserving every drop of rainwater is vital. Even soil pH is adjusted the old-fashioned way: wood ash for raising it, pine needles for lowering it, all applied with care and observation rather than chemical formulas. The remarkable thing about these practices is that they improve with time. Unlike conventional farms that become addicted to chemical inputs, Amish soil grows more fertile with each passing generation. Some farms have been in continuous use for over 200 years without needing to rest or be reclaimed. The wisdom here is profound. You don't inherit land from your ancestors. You borrow it from your grandchildren. But soil is only half the story. The other half is seeds, tiny capsules of potential that the Amish guard with almost religious devotion. Heirloom varieties are the crown jewels of Amish gardens. Names like Brandywine, German Johnson, and Mortgage Lifter aren't just quaint. They represent lineages carefully selected and preserved over more than a century. These seeds are chosen not for shipping durability or shelf life, like their supermarket counterparts, but for taste, size, resilience, and adaptability to local conditions. Each fall, the best fruits are set aside not for eating, but for seeding. Only the most flavorful, largest, and healthiest are chosen, and their seeds carefully extracted, dried and stored in paper envelopes or cloth bags in cool, dry places. Some families have seed collections going back generations. Seeds adapted over time to specific plots of land, resistant to local pests, tolerant of local climate swings. This practice, called mass selection, is powerful. Studies show that within just a few generations, plants can develop genetic advantages tailored to their environment. It's slow, deliberate, and effective, much like the Amish themselves. Cross-pollination is not feared, but welcomed, sometimes producing new and delightful results. A stray bee's visit might result in a tomato with a unique flavor or color. And if the farmer likes what he sees, he'll save that seed and watch what it does next season. In this way, the genetic diversity of Amish tomatoes is staggering. While commercial seed catalogs may offer a dozen varieties, a single Amish settlement might grow 50. This diversity isn't just interesting, it's insurance against the unpredictable. If one fails in a drought, another may thrive. If one succumbs to blight, another might stand strong. And through all of this, not a single genetically modified organism is used, not out of protest or trendiness, but because the Amish don't believe in altering nature in a lab. Their goal is not to dominate nature, but to work with it. Their methods are slower, yes, but they're also more resilient. Planting begins when nature says so, not the calendar. When certain wildflowers bloom or a certain bird sings, the Amish know the soil is ready. Seeds are planted by hand, in holes dug one by one, allowing each seedling the attention it deserves. If a stone is encountered, or the soil feels wrong, the plant may be moved a few inches. Machines don't notice such things, but a gardener's hands do. Tomatoes are planted deeply, often with stems laid sideways in shallow trenches, encouraging extra root development along the buried stem. This gives the plant a larger root system, which means more nutrients and bigger fruit. Into each hole may go crushed eggshells for calcium, a handful of bone meal for phosphorus, maybe a sprinkle of wood ash for potassium, all natural amendments gathered from around the farm. Spacing is generous, sometimes 4 feet between plants. It looks inefficient to the untrained eye, but each plant is given enough space and sunlight to stretch out and produce truly massive fruits. Fewer plants, bigger yield per plant, and higher quality. This is the Amish math of gardening. Companion planting also plays a role. Basil, marigolds, and nasturtiums are often nestled between the tomato plants. Their scents confuse pests, while their roots interact beneficially with the soil. Even the moon's phases might be consulted before planting, an ancient tradition rooted in the belief that lunar gravity affects moisture levels in the soil. Throughout the season, the best fertilizer remains what Amish call the gardener's shadow, frequent observation and presence. They walk their rows daily, watching, touching, listening. They stake their plants with twine and wooden poles, prune gently to encourage airflow and focus energy on the best fruit, and respond to pests or disease with speed and care. At the end of the season, when the last tomatoes are harvested and the first frosts whisper through the leaves, the cycle doesn't end. The soil is fed again, seeds are saved, tools are cleaned and repaired, and knowledge is passed on to the next generation. There's a quiet nobility in this way of life, a reverence for the natural world, a refusal to rush, a belief that working with the land is not just a means to survive, but a spiritual calling. And in the heart of it all, growing like red suns on green vines, are tomatoes that carry the flavor of centuries. They are not the product of labs or spreadsheets, but of patience, faith, and the ancient alchemy between human hands and fertile earth. That's the true secret of the Amish tomato.